Hey. Now, y'all, I done lost my glasses. Oh, here they are. Ha! Anywho, thank you for joining me here on Conversations with Taz for Freeform Fridays. The weekend party you just cannot avoid. There is so much to get into. First of all, let's start off with an update regarding the 6-year-old shooter. Y'all not gonna believe this, but you know how we do. I'll see you in 2 and 2.
Finally, the family of the 6-year-old boy who shot his first-grade teacher, Abby Zwerner, in Newport News, Virginia, is speaking out. They are saying the following. Our heart goes out to our son's teacher, not Abby, our son's teacher, and we pray for her healing in the aftermath of such an unimaginable tragedy as she selflessly serviced our son and the children of the school. They also said, our family has always been committed to responsible gun ownership and keeping firearms out of the reach of children. They continue. Our child suffers from an acute disability that was under a care plan at the school that included his mother or father attending school with him and accompanying him to class every day. The week of the shooting was the first week when we were not in class with him. We will regret our absence on this day for the rest of our lives. Police Chief Steve Drew has confirmed no charges have been filed yet.
This child had such an acute disability that it was part of his plan that one of his parents attended school with him. They just didn't attend that day. And even though they claim that the weapon was secure, they claimed it was secure and out of reach of children, yet their 6-year-old who needed their parent to sit with them at school all day was able to get it. I have a learning disability for math, but this doesn't add up.
Let me remind you all that this is the same child who brought bullets to school the week before. So if you all knew that you weren't going to be able to attend class with him, why didn't you just keep him out of school that day? And why are you trying to garner sympathy? I feel like I know what the parents are going to look like, but I digress. We also have an update on Andrew Tate. Coming from NBCnews.com, Andrew Tate said he broke a woman's jaw and that his business was a scam ahead of Romanian charges. Before his arrest on suspicion of human trafficking, Andrew Tate bragged about how he conducted his webcam sex business. Andrew Tate once called his sexually explicit webcam business a total scam and boasted on his website that he lured women in by getting them to fall in love with him. The 36-year-old influencer also boasted on a podcast that he broke a woman's jaw in a bar fight and got away with it. But this is y'all hero? This is who y'all simping for? But from one sex trafficker to a next. From CBSNews.com, Larry Ray, student's father. Let me repeat this. Larry Ray, student's father, convicted of sex trafficking and extortion at Sarah Lawrence College, sentenced to 60 years in prison. For those of y'all that think these people don't have wives, sisters, mothers, daughters, female cousins, yes, they do. They don't care. There's always an exception to their rule. A man convicted of extortion and forcing into labor or prostitution some women he met at his daughter's on-campus housing at Sarah Lawrence College was sentenced Friday to 60 years in prison. Larry Ray, 63, was sentenced in Manhattan federal court by Judge Louis J. Lyman, who described his crimes as particularly heinous. Lyman announced the sentence after Assistant U.S. Attorney Molly Bracewell said that age will not deter Ray from inflicting the kinds of unspeakable cruelty on others that he did for the last decade. on the friends of his daughter after he met them at Sarah Lawrence College, a small New York liberal arts school. Given a chance to speak, Ray expressed no remorse but decried his prison conditions and physical ailments. At trial, one woman testified that she became a sex worker to try to pay reparations to Ray after becoming convinced that she had poisoned him. She said that over 4 years, she gave Ray $2.5 million in installments that averaged between $10,000 to $50,000 per week. Where's the conviction for his daughter? Because did y'all not hear that he was trafficking his daughter's friends and women that were living in the same housing as his daughter? You can't tell me that sister girl wasn't putting the pieces together. Ain't no way. Ain't no way every time my daddy comes to visit me, one of my friends comes up missing or feels financially obligated to him that I'm not going to figure out what the fuck is going on. But it sounds about white. But y'all, that ain't the only one. By show of hands, who's with T-Mobile for their cell phone coverage? Y'all might want to pay attention. And if you know anybody with T-Mobile, send them this. Tell them to start watching at the 8-minute mark. Coming from the Associated Press, T-Mobile says data on 37 million customers stolen. The U.S. wireless carrier T-Mobile said Thursday that an unidentified malicious intruder breached its network in late November. It is January 2023, but okay. In late November, and stole data on 37 million customers, including addresses, phone numbers, and dates of birth. Y'all better check y'all credit scores and your credit records. T-Mobile said in a filing with U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission that the breach was discovered January 5th. What kind of cybersecurity do y'all have going on? It said the data exposed to theft based on its investigation to date did not include passwords or PINs, bank account or credit card information, social security numbers, or other government IDs. Address, name, phone number, and date of birth are, you know what? Never mind. Our investigation is still ongoing, but the malicious activity appears to be fully contained at this time, T-Mobile said. With no evidence, the intruder was able to breach the company's network. It said the data was first accessed on or around November 25th. If y'all just now finding out about that, I'll wait for the next statement because I'm pretty sure you're going to have to come out and admit that all of that information was collected as well because y'all too late on the uptake. Now, y'all, we about to get uncomfortable tonight. We still gonna have some fun, but we're about to get uncomfortable tonight, all right? Because we need to get uncomfortable. Too much has happened. Too much has happened. And we need to have some discomfort so we can have discourse, so we can have change. All right? All right. As long as y'all understand. Now, we gonna look at some things regarding some white women's perspective regarding white privilege. All right. There's going to be 2 videos. Get comfortable. I will see you in 2 and 2, and you know how we do.
You got to see this.
Well, I've never really thought of white privilege. Obviously, I'm a white woman, but what I think about is really privilege is growing up with a mom and a dad, right? That's privileged, right? Because a lot of kids don't have that. And I think you see that in the African American community where they're missing a mom or a dad, and they're just stuck in this cycle of poverty. And I always see that as a privilege, but white privilege didn't give me any jobs. White privilege didn't get, and I'm a woman in politics. I'm a woman in Republican politics, but I didn't get anywhere by being white and having a privilege. I got there because I worked my ass off.
Right.
So.
Okay, I can respect that.
Yeah.
What's your situation?
My take on the white privilege thing is, if we're going to say there's white privilege, then you would have to say that there's some form of privilege for any race or any gender, any religion. If you're an attractive woman, you have a privilege. I think there's all different kinds of privileges. I don't know.
From the color of my skin, I don't think I would have gotten away with my career if I were a black girl.
Part of me thinks it's time to move on. and knock it off and quit talking about it.
No, well, first you have to admit that something happened.
But we've come so far in America, in my opinion.
Right, we have come
so far.
So you don't think there's any race problem in this country?
No, but I think it's minuscule, and I think the way people are reacting are making it bigger.
But we have a lot of racial crimes happening right now, so it's hard to move on past
What
that.
do you mean racial crime?
Like black men being shot by cops.
See, I don't see it.
I mean, that's not happening to me. I've never been pulled over once and felt in danger.
I just don't know what the answer is. I do agree that it exists. And I think we have to work harder in this country.
That white privilege exists?
No, I agree that black privilege exists.
Okay.
I don't think there's any way in this country with our history we could deny that.
I'm going to get to the second video in a minute, but I want to break down this video real quick before we move on. One woman claims that white privilege doesn't exist because she threw in racial tropes that, we black people, all we can be is poor. All we can be is from broken households, where the most broken households are white people. See, they just try to skew statistics, as I keep telling you all. Historically, that's what they do. That's why they'll send their daughters off and have somebody within the family illegally adopt, I'm using this word very loosely, that child. Mr. Red Rum himself found out way until his 60s that his mother was his sister and his grandmother was who he had thought his whole life was his mother. Y'all catch what I'm putting down? And I don't see it. If you put yourself in a bubble, in an echo chamber, you're not going to see it. Why do you think so many right-wing sycophants contain themselves to truly interacting with people on Facebook? Because Facebook is the only social media platform left that you can put yourself into an echo chamber. You don't have an algorithm putting things out towards you. Now, on other social media platforms, they try to keep themselves in an echo chamber by attacking members of the BIPOC community, members of the LGBTQIA plus community. They literally go and attack just like they do in real life. They go, oh, I don't like this. Then why are you seeking out that thing that you don't like to go to? Like, I have no problem with heavy metal music. I will not go to a heavy metal concert. I went once. The vibe there was just not for me. I'm not saying anything disparaging about it. It just wasn't good for me. So guess what I don't do? I don't go to the concerts anymore. Why would I go to the concert and go, you're making me uncomfortable? Why did you do? You're choosing to put yourself in that space. But every time somebody, well, I don't see it. You don't have to see it, Beckiana. Methany, you're not going to see it. But then saying, oh, there's black privilege. What the only privilege that we black people have in this country is to die and be disparaged, to pay taxes and die. That's it. No more, no less. Because even those that are non-black within our inner circle, they don't even realize that there are times that they don't see us as human because they want to take, and never give. We'll tell them, I'm fucked up at this time. They don't give a fuck because we are still not human to them. We are still here to serve them. You can take the dumbest white person you know and put them up against the most intelligent person on the planet that is not white. And that dumbass white person will still think that they can outwit and outsmart and scam and grift that non-white person. But let's go on to part 2.
About white privilege is Oktoberfest. We figure that's a pretty white event. So we're going down to Helen, Georgia to go hang out at Oktoberfest, where I guess I'll just hopefully talk to a bunch of white racists. I mean, I've never hoped for that to happen before.
Well, one of the things you want to do is not assume that they're racist.
Right. Of course. Yeah. No assumptions going in. What's going on here in Georgia in the state of politics, voter suppression, and what's your take on everything?
I think it's all fake news.
You don't think that black people are being suppressed? Like, you don't think, I mean, this is a fact that their people are being purged.
Okay.
So that's not fake news.
Okay.
So what do you have to say to that?
Well, I guess when you fill out your voter registration, you need to make sure you know how to spell your name, know your address, your date of birth, verify that they're who they are, and then the vote counts. If it comes back false, it doesn't count. So if it's right, then...
You don't think that voting should be like a national holiday for people and make it easier for everybody to use their voice for the right that they have to live in this country?
No, voting's a privilege. It's not a right.
It's a right.
Oh my.
Privilege.
Copy that. We're discussing the topic of white privilege. Do you think that's a thing? Do you think it exists?
No.
What do you don't?
No.
And why do you know that?
Well, because I grew up in a neighborhood where I played with blacks, so I don't see them any differently than I see myself.
But how can we change it so that people don't discriminate towards people of color? You tell me, girl. I mean, sir. So what we're filming is a documentary on white privilege to see if it exists or if it's a fantasy that people are just making up in their heads. What do you think?
I think it's something they're making up in their heads.
You don't think it exists?
No, I have.
Do you think like white privilege is a thing or it's a non-thing?
I wouldn't say it's totally non-existent, but it's not something that I see very commonly.
But would you see it if you're white? Is there a privilege to being a white person versus being a person of color?
I can't identify with that because I'm white, so I don't know.
Great answer. I wish more people answered like that, but you're absolutely right. How would we fucking know? Excuse my German.
Did you notice that each time they were combating white privilege, they use racial tropes? If you know how to spell your name, if you know your address, that goes back to gerrymandering. And the last gentleman was absolutely correct. How would I know? I'm white. See, when you have that privilege of being able to ignore everything around you, you're not going to see anything. You can stick your head in the sand and pretend like everything is great. Haven't you ever heard a white person that goes, well, I grew up in this neighborhood and there were black people there and they didn't experience X, Y, and Z. But when you ask them, did you ever ask your black friends or non-white friends what their experience was in that same neighborhood? Oh, no, I just know that they were fine. How do you know that? How do you know that? And you know what? Let me share a story time with y'all. When I lived in the capital of Kentucky, Frankfort, Kentucky, there was somebody that was telling me about their experience in high school and their experience on the football team, because that's when they peaked. If you know small time life, you know, you know. So I was listening and they were talking about one black guy and they were like, well, he didn't get upset about racial jokes and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you just said he's one of 3 out of 25 on a football team sitting in a locker room. I know that uncomfortable feeling. As militant as I am, I know when to pick my battles. I know I can't fight off 20-something motherfuckers by myself. This ain't a movie where they just gonna come up and fight me one by one. Okay? And I said, yeah, sometimes we got to play along to get along to survive. He's like, no, he didn't feel that way. And then I asked one critical question. Where is he now? If he was such a good friend of yours and he was right along with you with all these coonastic, racial trope, racist ass jokes, where is he? He said the day after graduation, he killed himself. And I said, why do you think that? He knew that he couldn't escape that town and he didn't want to live his life perpetually in that. I said, but let me ask you one other question. Was he the first one in his family to survive high school, to graduate? And he's like, what you mean survive? I mean, he was the first one to graduate. Do you know how many generations of his family lived in that town that you came from? Well, he had 5 or 6. Do you not see that either they weren't allowed to go to school or they were pushed out of school because of the racism? And he decided to get along, to give his family bragging rights and give his family a badge of honor. And then when that was done, he realized our education ain't shit in this small coal mining town. And coal mining was on its way out at the time. That the town that this dude came from is dead than a motherfucker right now. Okay. I'm waiting for it to just be wiped off the map in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Okay. He couldn't take it anymore. And that's what people don't get. That uncomfortable laugh, that not checking you when we're surrounded by dozens of you at a time in a town that historically, if we do give you pushback, you're not just going to come after us. You're going to come and lynch our whole family, bomb the house, burn the house down, shoot up the house. All the way up to the movement of the 1980s. And then you'll take our burned bodies and hold them hostage in your universities, as which still stands today. Because there are families still suing universities, PWIs at that, predominantly white institutes for those of y'all that don't know, to get Black, just non-white bodies back so that the families can finally bury them and memorialize them properly. See, it's real easy to say that you don't see stuff. And this same individual would brag about fighting with cops, cussing out cops. This same individual called me because they had a single car accident where they totaled their father's car, left the scene of the accident and came to my front door. And I was like, we're going back to the scene. There's cameras all over here. I used to live within camera shot of the state police. Ain't no way you getting me caught up because you done walked to my house and made it seem like I'm involved. And when the cops showed up, this motherfucker wants to talk about how he was fist fighting this cop. And I'm looking at the cop like, I ain't got shit to do with this. I ain't got shit to do with this. But they'll sit there and say that they don't have privilege. When you can cuss out everybody and make it home, but I can't lay in my bed and guarantee I'm going to wake up in the morning. You have privilege. And that's just the bare bones basics. If you can get arrested and be released on a $50 bond for some heinous shit, but I can be arrested for a simple California roll through a stop sign, and I never make it back home. I only make it to the ancestors. That's privilege. Like there's a white woman now that did some foul shit, completely disrespected a client that she tried to market to the internet as a friend and just, I fucked up. And all these white men and women are coming to her rescue. Oh, the other woman is just being sensitive. Why didn't she just tell her? Why didn't she? That's privilege. When you can disrespect somebody as content, cry on camera. Instead, just like people are like, well, why didn't the friend tell her? Why didn't this woman call this friend and just apologize? Because if I know that I disrespected a friend, making a video of me crying and victimizing myself ain't gonna fix shit. And not one of y'all will come to my defense and be like, oh no, Taz, you don't, I can tell by your tears, you're sincere. Trust me, I went through that shit in 2021 when motherfuckers was lying on my goddamn name. And when I came out to check them, I was aggressive. I was lying. catch what the fuck I'm putting down. But if you think it's just white women, white men are bullies for life. Think I'm joking? First of all, if you follow me, you know I'm not. Just believe me, just watch.
Around and find out 43 years later.
My legal name is Greg Gay. I was bullied. I had kids that bullied me, even the coaches. One day at lunch, I had my head shoved in the urinal. It busted my lip. I had laid on the ground in a fetal position as the kids kicked me. Well, I went home and I got the 45 out of my father's drawer and put it in my mouth. I had nobody in the school system to help me. Lance, you were the one that shoved my head in the urinal.
Mr.
Thank you.
And people like Lance, or who's sitting on school boards that we're supposed to trust to protect children, even as a full-grown adult, he couldn't admit fault, and he still laughed. He still laughed at this man admitting that nobody at that school was stopping his bullying, that there were adults that witnessed his bullying and didn't stop it, that he tried to kill himself. And Lance, hearing that, decided the proper response. And don't say, oh, that was a nervous no, that was I don't give a fuck. I'ma still be a bully to this day. See, when bullies say that they don't remember you, yes, they do. Because there was a young lady who thought she bullied me. I was like, bitch, I didn't even know what you had going on. I wasn't paying you a lick of fucking attention. And that's the truth. Evidently, while I was in school, there was a girl working overtime to try to bully me. But here's the thing. She never said anything or did anything to my motherfucking face. So it never registered to me. As an adult at an event, she came up to me like, oh, I'm so sorry for bullying you, but bobblehead bitch. I didn't know that that's what the fuck you was doing. You never did anything directly to me. You never said anything directly to me. So all this time I've been winning. I've been on your mind. I ain't thought nothing else about you. Shit. But see, when bullies go, oh, I don't remember. I don't think that was it. They remember. Trust me, because one thing for certain, two things for sure, the pinnacle, the highlight of a bully's life was middle school or high school. Become their friend. Go visit them. That's all they'll talk about. Look at their social media. These are the motherfuckers that are still posting their prom pictures, their graduation pictures like it was yesterday. Baby, we're grown. You don't have any other accomplishments to talk about? How embarrassing. How embarrassing. Motherfuckers out here almost 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, damn near 100 years old. Wasn't even on prom court. Wasn't even on prom committee. It had a low budget ass dress, low budget ass everything. But want to keep talking about that. Oh, my date was, your date ain't thought about you since they dropped your ass off that night. But let's run the ad and then continue to get into it. See y'all in 2 and 2. You know how we do.
Dr. King, in light of recent statements of Senator Barry Goldwater and, in some cases, Richard Nixon, do you think there is a real danger of the Republican Party becoming the white man's party in this country?
I think this is a real danger, and I've talked with some Negro Republicans who are very concerned about this. I see trends and developments which will reveal that unless the liberals of the Republican Party take play a much more decisive role in leadership positions, this will become a white man's party. And I think this would be tragic for the Republican Party as well as tragic for the nation.
Tell me again how Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was for everybody. Anywho, of course, we enter the segment called Santos News. And if you have not already checked out the links in the description of this video, make sure that you do it. Make sure you share them with your friends, family, and everybody else. And make sure you share this podcast. Okay? Okay. See you in 2 and 2. You know how we do.
So we have a massive update to the story about Republican George Santos apparently being a drag queen in Brazil. Not only has a new photo emerged, which looks a lot like George Santos, but also new video has emerged showing George Santos boasting about performing as a drag queen in Rio de Janeiro. And here you can see some screenshots from that video. Now Santos denies these allegations, but the video and these photos is pretty compelling evidence. Once again, there's nothing wrong with George Santos doing drag. It's just the fact that he's part of the Republican Party who villainize drag queens.
And the tapes have come out. Oh yeah, that's her. That's her.
Do you guys want to see a dead body? First, let me introduce you to Bill Foster. He's a congressman from Illinois. He has a doctorate in particle theory or particle whatever. He's a genius. He wrote his doctoral dissertation on an experimental limit on proton decay. In the spirit of good sportsmanship, he wanted to welcome George Santos to the Science Committee. I am thrilled to be joined on the Science Committee by my Republican colleague, Dr. George Santos, winner of not only the Nobel Prize, but also the Fields Medal and top prizes in mathematics for his groundbreaking work on imaginary numbers. Jesus! It's fucking savage! These scientists, man, they got no fucking chill.
First of all, as a cousin of a former, I should say retired drag queen, baby, you can't hide them receipts. 2, as a granddaughter of a scientist, like when he died, he was the president of the United States Chemistry Association. Scientists are savage, okay? I'm talking savage. I have witnessed some clapbacks that I know people cried in the car. I know people called their mamas after some of just the scientific, just the knowledge-based arguments that have happened, and they get deep down and dirty and personal. If you're not believing the science that they have uncovered, baby, it gets vicious. Woo! They are savage. Forget Carol Baskins. Killed her. They would, baby, they'll murk you verbally and show up to your funeral and cry on your mama's shoulder like they were your bestie. Okay. And then when she turned her head, spit on your grave and then tap dance on it. Do not play. Do not play with a scientist. Now, remember the fatal shooting on the movie set of the movie Rust. Well, we have an update coming from USA Today. I meant to give this to you all the other day. Sorry. Sometimes I have so many things in my notes and I really need to clear out older notes. I'm going to do that overnight. Alec Baldwin to be charged with involuntary manslaughter in Helena Hutchinson's Rust shooting. Alec Baldwin will be charged in the 2021 shooting death of a cinematographer during a rehearsal on the New Mexico set of his Western movie Rust, the Santa Fe district attorney announced Thursday. Baldwin, 64, who was holding the gun at the time it fired, and Rust armorer Anna Gutierrez Reed will each be charged with 2 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Santa Fe district attorney Mary Carmack Altweiss and special prosecutor Andrea Reed said in a news release. Here's the thing. Do I believe that the armorer should be charged? Yes. No, I'm not an Alec Baldwin fan. I'm not even a Baldwin family fan. I have a lot of critiques and criticisms for them. This has nothing to do with it. He was not in charge of the weapon. He was relying on a professional that was hired to do their job, to make sure that there were blanks in the gun, that everything was supposed to work according to industry standards. I do not think it's fair that he's being charged. Just like I hate the charge of receiving stolen goods, because if somebody gives you a gift, you don't know if they paid for it, if they stole it. Why are you sitting in jail because you got excited and opened up a gift and accepted it? This feels like the same thing to me. Now, the armorer, 100%, because if you followed me for a while, you know, we followed this case when it first broke. This armorer was allowing people to put live ammunition into prop guns and go out and target practice in the middle of nowhere where there was no need for it. This was not police training. This was not military training. This was not armed security training. She was not qualified. She was too young. Now, if you want to go after the executive producers of it, and if Alec Baldwin is an executive, if he was involved in the hiring of this person and he did not ensure that she was properly vetted, fine, I understand that. But include the rest of the producers, include, you know, the rest of the people that were involved with her hiring. And like I said, I'm not making excuses for Alec Baldwin. I am not an Alec Baldwin sycophant. And shit, I tell y'all the truth about my own damn family members and about myself. So y'all know I do not draw lines in the sand. Wrong is wrong and right is right. Shit, even if it's me that's doing the wrong, you're going to find out from me before you find out from somebody else. So if somebody comes to you saying, well, Taz did this or Taz said that, if Taz ain't told you, that shit ain't the fucking truth. Because Taz going to tell you how she fucked up before anybody else could. And if you don't believe me, I got 4 aunties that will tell you, because they get a chuckle out of the fact that I tell on myself before anybody else could. But yeah, no, it would be no different than if you hire me to create a e-commerce website for you, me, and you go, Taz, I don't want nobody else to work on this but you. And I go, okay, bet. But I go behind your back and hire other people that steal money from you. Should I be held accountable? Yes, in that instance. Yeah, because I went against your wishes. But think about it this way. You hire me to put up a website for you. Website crashes, people lose money, they don't get their orders. Should you be held accountable for what the fuck I did? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You hired me based on my reputation. You hired me based on my CVV/resume. You were counting on me to do the right thing. You were believing that I would be a consummate professional and do what I was supposed to do. You should not be sitting as my co-defendant. Y'all catch what I'm putting down? But y'all, if you think that's crazy, y'all know I go down rabbit holes, especially on a Friday night. Well, Texas believes that there's food with fetuses in them, and they want them properly labeled so people know. I'm not joking. Take a look.
Okay, I cannot believe I need to say this. Texas.
Have you lost your ever-living fucking mind? Have you lost your mind? You want food labeled that has aborted fetuses? There's literally no such fucking thing. There's no such thing. Are you kidding me? Weren't you supposed to be seceding at like any minute? I will set up a GoFundMe for you. Something I don't fucking know.
And because of all this misinformation and disinformation, there is a woman going viral for all the wrong reasons on TikTok because she believes that aborted fetuses are in Pepsi products. Yep, you heard me right. She believes that they're taking clumps of cells. Now, cells are biodegradable. I don't know about the schools that y'all went to, but in middle school and in high school, we were sent home with petri dishes. We were told to take collections from certain things. We were told to put them in the refrigerator over the weekend because, you know, everybody had a certain, like the schools that I went to, everybody was within a certain time frame to get to the school. And even if you had a class at the end of the day, it would survive long enough for the teacher, you know, to teach you about cells and germs and all that other stuff. Now, I read the label of everything that I buy. If you buy a 12-pack, a 24-pack of Pepsi, it does not say you have to immediately refrigerate it. Now, if you have biodegradable, aka fetuses, you would have to immediately and how fine would you have to grind that up so it would I feel like this is the same logic that people were using to use an excerpt from the Teletubbies to say that a certain scene from the Teletubbies was how McDonald's was making their chicken nuggets. Or people not understanding how acidity works and pouring soda on stuff going, see, you could clean this off with this and you could also do that with your conditioner and shampoo, Beckiana, but okay. Now, we haven't talked about Matt Gaetz in a while, so let's give him some attention. Let's give him a round of applause for being dumb as hell. Take a look.
This video is being made for educational purposes. Having said that, this tweet came across my timeline with a video of good old Matt Gaetz talking about what he told Trump as it pertains to how he can appeal to women. And yes, you heard that right. Let's go ahead and play the video, shall we?
What I've said to President Trump is like, you have to create a permission structure where women who do not like you vote for you again. And like, you see the grit of a Sarah Huckabee Sanders, you see the directness, the efficacy, really bold steps. Her first days as governor, banning TikTok on a lot of the government devices there. She's the kind of person I'd look at. Kristi Noem also, I think would be a pretty stellar pick.
Matt? No. Kristi Noem looks like she wants to put me in the sunken place. And as it pertains to the walking thumb, we don't need her near the White House ever again. I don't know the last time Matt Gaetz spoke to a woman, but women are not going to vote for Trump simply because he has a woman as his running mate. Women are much smarter than that. Not that I would expect Matt Gaetz to know that, of course. Women are pretty steadfast in their opinions of Trump. The women out there that hate him, they will continue to hate him, and there is nothing you can do to make them change their thoughts about him. And as for the women out there who do support him after everything he said and done as it pertains to women, and they grab him by the hee-haw comment, everything, they will probably always love him, and there is nothing he could say or do to make them hate him. I honestly believe that Donald Trump could come out, say he hates women, And there would be women out there who would go, you know what, I hate women too. It's about damn time a man came out and said it, because we are the worst. Matt Gaetz' loyalty to Trump is really fascinating. I mean, he is whipped. Trump lives rent-free in his head. And call me crazy, I don't think there's any way that Trump would ever have a woman as his running mate. I just don't see him doing it. I think Trump would rather not run for president than have a woman as his running mate. Not only would they more than likely be more qualified than him, but let's keep it real, right? Even if they did run with him, they would be his running mate in title only. If he did get reelected, they wouldn't have any power. He'd take all the power away, and anytime the vice president did try to do something, more than likely, Trump would like threaten to have them removed from office or something like that. So sorry, Matt Gaetz, but it's not happening, and Trump is not getting back in the White House, you dig?
Now let's break this down historically. It is recent history, but it is still history. Trump himself has come out and saying that women are charged with raising children solely, no help from the man. That's all their job. Okay. The only woman he seems to respect is Ivanka, and she's pulled herself away from him. So he's been very tight-lipped about that, because I think he's honestly conflicted right now. But also, the women that Matt Gaetz has suggested are anti-woman. Now, are there white women that'll still do that because they still have that pick-me vibe that, well, at least I got a warm body next to me every night. Isn't that right? And they're the women that get on social media and do the whole partner shaming thing. Like, I'm not going to clean up until he cleans up, even though I've never made him clean up before, and his mother never made him clean up before. And we all know he doesn't know how. And let us not forget, Matt Gaetz does not know what it means to be around a full-grown woman. And yes, I know that Matt Gaetz got married, but he married her because she's still very adolescent. He likes teenagers. We know about Apple Paygate. We know about viral Venmo. We know about pedophilic PayPal. All the things that he was using, and that's why he asked for a blanket pardon from Trump. See, he wants Trump back in office because his confidant was already convicted and willing to turn over state's evidence against him. And even though so many people are like, no, they won't be able to convict Matt Gaetz because, you know, the superior witness has already been convicted. What does he have to lose at this point? That's what, so even legal scholars, that's what y'all are missing. What does that man have to lose at this point? He's already convicted. And see, if he was black, you wouldn't hesitate. If he was Muslim, you wouldn't hesitate. If he was Jewish, you wouldn't hesitate. If he was a member of the LGBTQIA plus community, you wouldn't hesitate. But y'all still think white is right. Now, since Matt Gaetz obviously still guzzles the glizzy of Trump, let's segue into some Trump news. Ew.
Donald Trump, one of his main defenses, his despicable defenses, he goes, E. Jean Carroll is not my type. That is why I could never have sexually assaulted her. But in these new deposition portions that were released, there's a moment where Donald Trump confuses a photograph from 20 or 30 years ago of E. Jean Carroll, and he thinks that that was his ex-wife, Marla Maples. He goes, oh, that's Marla right there. And then Roberta Kaplan, the lawyer for E. Jean Carroll, has to correct Donald Trump and say, no, that was not your ex-wife, Marla Maples. That's E. Jean Carroll right there in that black and white photo with you. Even Alina Habba has to jump in, Trump's lawyers, and go, no, that's not your wife. That's E. Jean Carroll. It completely rebuts Donald Trump's entire repulsive theory to begin with. Again, let me be clear. It is utterly repulsive that he would say that, but he admits that he thought that E. Jean Carroll was Marla Maples.
So I'm just seeing this shit and I cannot go to bed without telling you. It's about damn time. A judge just fined Trump and his lawyer almost $1 million for filing a revenge lawsuit against Hillary Clinton and others. I think it was this past March, but Trump sued the DNC, Hillary Clinton, and others. He claimed that they conspired to spread false information against his campaign and that Russia drama. This past September, the judge threw it out. He told Trump that his claims were unsupported. So the defendants came back at his ass. This time, the judge called him out. Check out what he said. Mr. Trump is a prolific and sophisticated litigant who is repeatedly using the courts to seek revenge on political adversaries. The judge also warned him more suits can come because of his revenge tactics. Hint, hint. Trump sued the AG of New York for her suing his companies. Now they're coming after you, Dumpy.
All right, so do you remember a few months ago when it made the news, Trump's legal team for the last couple of years has been just a bunch of complete hacks. His prior to a few months ago, his two main attorneys had been this Christina Bobb, who had been an anchor on OAN, who signed that declaration last June about the Mar-a-Lago documents saying we don't have any more, and that turned out to be a lie. And then he had this other woman from New York and New Jersey who, prior to representing Trump, had represented a bunch of parking garages, literally. And people around him were like, you need to get a real lawyer. And he found one. He found the former Solicitor General from the state of Florida, a guy named Christopher Kies, I think his name is, Kies. And that made news at the time because this guy said to Trump, yeah, I'll work with you, but you're going to pay me a $3 million retainer up front. Dude got every bit of his fees up front. Left the firm that he was working with, opened his own firm, took in that $3 million, and Trump's his only client. And immediately, he and Trump started clashing. Why? Because Chris Kies is a real fucking lawyer. He's the former Solicitor General for the state of Florida. He's an actual lawyer who knows what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. And shortly after that, he had been working for Trump for like 2 months. And then it starts coming out into the news that he had already been sidelined because he kept telling Trump, no, you can't do this. No, I'm not going to say this. No, I'm not going to sign that. No, I'm not going to make that argument in court because all of this shit's illegal and it's a lie. And so then it comes where Trump wants to file this massive lawsuit against Hillary Clinton for, I don't even remember what it was, and like 30 other people. It was something related to the 2016 election, but it was a completely frivolous bullshit lawsuit. And he's like, no, I'm not signing that. I'm not signing off on that. You really should not do that. If you do this, it's going to be a bad thing. Don't file this lawsuit. Don't pursue that. And Trump was like, nah. So Trump gets his other hack lawyers to write up this just bullshit complaint, files it, serves everybody. They all file a motion to dismiss. Thing gets thrown out. And then everybody files a motion for sanctions. And right before this, I did a video where Trump and his attorneys for doing that got hit today by a Florida judge for almost $1 million in sanctions that they have to pay.
Trump is not original. The first time I heard the defense that somebody wasn't attractive enough to get raped, I was in high school. And it was a friend of mine that was raped. We had a serial rapist that was allowed to enroll in our school. He did not meet the criteria to get into the school, but some way, somehow he got in. And I didn't know at first that the person that they were talking about was my friend, but I was still offended. And I remember having a conversation with my granny because I didn't understand why I felt so offended. And it was that same racial trope that led back to the antebellum period. That dark-skinned Black women weren't attractive. Taller, non-Black women weren't attractive and were masculine. But you see, Trump couldn't even tell the difference between his victim and a former mistress turned ex-wife. And then he wants to hire the greatest of the great attorneys, but never listen to them. And he wants everybody to put their careers in jeopardy for him. Let's move into this blind react.
My boyfriend 27 has been treating me 23 differently since he got his ancestry DNA results back. A few weeks ago, my boyfriend got his results back from one of those ancestry tests. He's never been interested in his family history before, but one of his friends bought him the kit for his birthday. A few days after seeing his results, which were nothing special, about 95% European and mostly just from England, where we live, he really excitedly told me that he'd been messaged by a group of people about a shared relative. Apparently all of them have an ancestor in common, my boyfriend's great-grandfather, that can be linked to royal lineage. I was pleased and a bit amused that my boyfriend was so happy, especially since he seemed to be telling every single person he knows, and he posted on Facebook about it. However, since then I've noticed some uncomfortable behaviors from him that is making me second-guess our relationship. 1. He quit his job 2 weeks ago, accountant, which was very unexpected and something we hadn't discussed before. Now he gets defensive when I try to bring it up and ask if there was something in particular that triggered it. He has only said that he doesn't believe the 9-5 life is right for him. 2. He has suddenly insisted on using condoms when we have sex. We have been together 3 years and my birth control, the copper coil, has never been an issue for him before. My boyfriend has started saying it is not good enough as a form of contraceptive by itself, which would be fine, except he has started making a few comments alongside this about how I'm trying to steal his genes and implying that I want his bloodline. 3. He won't kiss me in public anymore or touch me at all around his family, which he has explained by saying he doesn't like PDA anymore and it's embarrassing. He is fine touching me when we're alone, however. 4. He has asked me to look into my family history by making a family tree to go alongside his. It's not something I care about or want to pursue. My family are also immigrants, so I imagine harder to track than his, but since I refused, he has made jokes that I must be scared to find out that my family don't match up to his. As a side note, by traditional standards my family are a lot better off and more middle class than his, although this has never affected our relationship. We've generally had a really good relationship before now, and there have never been any major communication issues or anything like that. I'm really confused as to what's going through his mind right now, and I could use some advice. Thank you.
This mofo thinks he's William and Harry. Having connections to royal blood. Did we forget how many concubines royalty have had? Have we forgotten how many mistresses and mistresses royalty has had? I mean, you could have been at the lower echelon of the royal family, but he's just gonna quit his job. Where does he think money is gonna come from to sustain his lifestyle? And then your family is already doing better than him. Baby, you don't need advice. You need track shoes. She's a runner. She's a track star. She gonna run all right. Yeah, get to running, boo. He is now trying to act as if he's under royal protocol. That's why he doesn't want PDA. Lord G. Woo. Woo. Like, let's not forget about the boys in the tower. They were of royal blood also, but it was in, never mind. Never mind. Who gonna tell him? I can't tell him because I can't keep getting banned and put on punishment on every social media platform. Who gonna? Well, we got some Andrew Tate news. Well, Andrew Tate sycophant news, and it's a woman that's simping for Andrew Tate. Let's just go. Let's just go with it.
This video is being made for educational purposes. Having said that, trigger warning in this one. In a world full of bad takes and opinions, this by far and away has to be one of the worst that I have ever seen. This tweet came across my timeline from somebody named Leia Hailpern. I think it's how you say her name. I have no clue who she is, but she tweeted this out. It's not okay for Andrew Tate to inspire young boys to be strong, but it's okay for Cardi B and Nicki Minaj to encourage young girls to behave like prostitutes? I read some of the replies to the tweet and they weren't much better. But I clicked into her profile because again I had no idea who this was, and I saw in her bio it said author of Undressing Bitcoin. So automatically I knew this must be a crypto nerd. And the first tweet I saw of her, outside of the one that came across my timeline, was this tweet of her on Fox Business. Again, whatever the hell that is. So automatically I knew everything I needed to know about this woman. She is apparently an Andrew Tate apologist, which is a weird hill to die on as a woman. And I gotta say this right, when it comes to her saying that Andrew Tate is inspiring young boys to be strong, like maybe her definition of strong and my definition of strong are different, but if this was like a Mad Lib, I would replace strong with misogynistic, or sexist, prejudice even, nut job, windbag, douche. There's a lot of terms and phrases we could use to describe whatever Andrew Tate was teaching young boys to be, but he was not teaching them to be strong. And though I am not a woman, I am friends mainly with women, I would imagine they would find Miss Alea's tweet here to be quite offensive, extremely tone deaf, and quite honestly, it's a betrayal to friggin' women everywhere to defend Andrew Tate after everything he's done and said. Respectfully, Andrew Tate belongs as far away from women as possible. I'm not gonna sit here and defend Cardi B. I have issues with things she has said in the past about how she used to drug and rob men. I have a lot of issues with that. Don't quite understand how she hasn't been canceled for that, but whatever. Nicki Minaj married a sex offender, so again, not really gonna sit here and defend her either. But I don't believe they're teaching young girls to be prostitutes, and even if they were, Andrew Tate is not teaching boys to be strong. He's breeding betas, insecure, misogynistic, sensitive betas. Let's not make Andrew Tate out to be something he's not. He's a monster who belongs in prison, and I hope that is where he stays for the foreseeable future. If you haven't seen this more recent video of mine talking about Andrew Tate, give it a watch, and you tell me, was he teaching young boys to be strong? Spoiler alert, he wasn't.
Now, if you all remember, the article that I read at the top of the hour says that Andrew Tate even admitted on multiple platforms that his whole business was a scam. But guess, I don't want to call it a scam, but guess who else is looking at fellow citizens as less than human beings? Take a look.
Why do I feel like these people get more and more evil by the minute? This time, Iowa Republicans are proposing these restrictions for people on food stamps. No white grains. People can only purchase 100% wheat bread, brown rice, and 100% whole wheat pasta. No baked, refried, or chili beans. People can purchase black, red, and pinto beans. No fresh meats. No fresh meats. People can purchase only canned products like canned tuna or canned salmon. Oh my God. No sliced, cubed, or crumbled cheese. No American cheese. What does that leave? Literally treating human beings like animals. Is absolutely disgusting, but not surprising whatsoever.
Isn't it the same people who look at plus size people, husky people, fat people, if you will, and say that they're unhealthy, but you want to push people who happen to be getting food stamps because in this country, we refuse to pay people a livable wage, that they can't have foods that would be healthy for them, that they can't just pick and choose what they like. Interesting. Interesting. So no fresh nothing, right? Just carbs on top of carbs on top of carbs and sugar on top of sugar. Oh, okay. But you don't want anybody to say anything about those expense accounts, right? Now, y'all remember Trump's self-coup, aka the January 6th insurrection? And I kept telling y'all that Capitol Police officers were involved. And certain people kept saying that I was reaching to the point where I was dislocating my shoulder. Vindication always comes, and it's so tasty.
First Capitol Police officer charged in the January 6th insurrection. Officer Michael Riley is facing 2 counts of obstructing justice. Prosecutors say he actively worked to get in the way of their vast investigation.
We have Officer Mike Riley, a 25-year veteran of the force. Officer Riley is said to be Facebook friends with somebody who took part in the riot. The riot happens, it comes and goes, and Officer Riley sends a Facebook message to this accused rioter. The exact quote, Leslie, from the indictment is this: "Hey, I'm a Capitol Police officer who agrees with your political stance. Take down the part about being in the building. They are currently investigating, and everyone who is in the building is going to be charged. Just looking out." So that is part 1 of the charges that we have right here. Part 2, Leslie, is the FBI gets wind that these Facebook messages exist, that this officer is allegedly helping a Capitol rioter. As soon as the FBI wants to see those messages, this officer is accused of deleting them. So from the DOJ's point of view, that is tampering with evidence and harming this investigation. So where we stand right now at this 5 o'clock hour, the officer has been allowed to be released from prison under his own recognizance. He is on administrative leave.
So tell me again how police officers, Secret Service weren't involved. Now, we're going to take one quick step back because I do want to address this comment back to the food stamp story. Everything they name is actually good. No, tell me where canned meat is good for you. Tell me where not being able to get proper dairy products is good for you. Because they go on to say that you can't get fresh fruit either or fresh vegetables. How's that good for you? They might as well hand them cat food or dog food. But from one January 6th story to the next, to quote the illustrious Double D Mother, and like I always tell y'all, go follow her on every social platform that there is. And it's Mother, M-U-V-A, Double D, D-E-E, Mother. Lauren Boebert is at it again.
Insurrection Barbie is back again, you guys. And this time, she says, Speaker McCarthy says he'll be releasing all the footage from January 6th, considering all the public has seen are edited clips from a bunch of Democrats with an axe to grind. It sure will be nice to get some unbiased footage. You ready? First News Channel chimes in and says, I wonder what they'll find. Was Pelosi pulling the strings? Were the rioters FBI plants? You think the footage will show that there wasn't a riot and that 140 officers didn't get injured? Forget about your campaign promise to bring down inflation and crime. Investigate this. And Luke has my heart. Look, it's simple. Dems rigged the election so they could fake an insurrection so they could get Ashley Babbitt to come from California so they could unjustifiably shoot her, so they could cover it up, so they could pass COVID relief infrastructure bill and start a war in Ukraine. Duh. Brian comes in and says, honey, every witness on the January 6th committee was a Republican that either worked for Trump or was in his sphere. So there's that. And yes, release all the footage. It shows mob led by lies trying to illegally obstruct a process. You're in over your head. The Nasty comes in and says, will it include your Capitol tours? Jonathan Goldman has some advice to her. He says, you seem to forget we all saw it play out live. What we really want to see is any CCTV footage of the Capitol building from January 5th, when you were giving tours to the insurrectionists. So I don't know exactly what they think that they're going to uncover. The Democrats already released everything. So we all saw what happened, Lauren, and we all know that you're an insurrectionist, and we can't wait to lock you up.
This is what I like, me fucking for real. Does Lauren Boebert forget that we all got to watch this live on air And if you have a Twitter account, you got to see her tweets in real life. Now, some of them disappeared when Trump got banned from Twitter. But when Elon Musk had the illustrious idea to unban Trump, all of those conspiracy they all came back. So, yeah, I mean, if you want the footage that this I'm just saying, if I aided and abetted in a crime, I wouldn't. What do I know? But as always, make sure you check out the links in the description of this video. And make sure you follow me on all platforms, because as always, I do sprinkle all of the good social commentary across all of my platforms. And y'all can stop arguing with me on all these platforms trying to have a gotcha moment. It ain't gonna happen. You can call me conceited if you want to. I got one person who calls me intellectually arrogant. I'll take that. But let's get into the final video of the night, which is a blind react. So let's get into it.
Joseph, you and Cambucci must grow your own crops because the grocery stores are at war with us. I walked in the store the other day, the price is up on everything. Well, excuse me, Walmart, when we stop rolling back? I must be selling golden chickens to have eggs this high. I want to see the chickens. Because if it's the same chickens that have wings last year, we really gonna have a problem. So, Judge.
What's wrong?
Okay. As always, thank y'all for joining me here on Freeform Fridays for Conversations with Taz. I will see y'all. I will see y'all Sunday night after the Bengals game wraps. As always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Till next time.